All right. I think now it's the time to speak about the server and what a REST API is. What we have now in our application is the ability to view meetings and create a new meeting. Well, at least we have the UI for it. What's missing is a place to store these information outside of the app. And we use a server for doing that. Appgyver also comes with the ability to create client-side storage. What we will not use, we will use server-side storage, communicating with the server via REST API. So let's talk about what a server is. To make it simple, we just treat the server as some kind of black box, and the server and the client can communicate. And usually this communication goes through the internet, but it has not to. And what is a client? A client is any application what can connect to a server. So for example, a web page can be a client, an application, a web app, or a mobile app can be a client, but really anything can be a client as soon as they connect to a server. For example, on Linux we have servers to run the UI for, and we have application within Linux acting as a client, and they connect to a server to get the image what should be rendered. And even though both applications are sitting in the same computer, they are divided into a server and a client. And within this, what divides these two applications is some kind of a medium. It could be really short, like within the same computer, or it can be really distant. Like, for example, I'm going to use the Uber app and it's connected somewhere in America, I'm sitting in Europe, then it's still the same server-client architecture. It's just that the internet is the medium in between those two. So what we need for our application to save state across different devices is a server, because we don't want only to have one server. We want a server and we want to have connected it with multiple clients. So let's say we have client 1 and client 2. Or the client 2, and it can go on until client n. So the server acts as some kind of coordinator and also saves our state into some kind of, let's say, database. And that's it. That's the whole architecture we actually have in this scenario. So what's more important as how the server actually works is how the data is transmitted. And in Appgyver we have something, some kind of a protocol called the REST API. We can take a look at it when we go on data. So this data and the data variable, they are not the same thing. So when we go on variables, on data variables, it's state what you actually are saving or can save. If you go on the top black bar on data, they call it data configurator. So it's not a variable. What you are doing is you're explaining to Appgyver how to retrieve or how to update, delete data, and what the data source is from. So we can create a data resource, and we can choose different resources. Usually you will choose the client-side storage or the REST API. And the REST API means the data sits on a server and the server speaks REST. So let's click on it. Let's give it a name. Meetings. Okay. Maybe let's give it a description as well. All our meetings in a list, something like that. Okay, and every resource has at least 4, sometimes 5 operations. The get collection operation, which will get like a list of data objects. The get record, which will get a single object from a resource. The create, it will create a new resource. The update will change it, and the delete will delete a resource. You will also see that we have some kind of methods in behind. So this one has a get method, as well as this one. This one has a post method, a put method, and a delete method. So what this means is that when we are speaking with the internet, what we do is we are sending an HTTP request. Well, it's not important to understand the specifics in behind. What's important is to understand that an HTTP request needs to have a certain set of information. Request. To make it really simple, we will break down only the essentials. So it has a header, and inside the header there's some kind of information. It has an URI. It's something like the path, like for example appgyver.com/dashboard, I don't know. It has a method, and the method could be a get, it could be a post, a put, and a delete. And sometimes it has a body. The body is some kind of data. So the body is optional. But what it has to have always are a header, a URI, and then a method. And we can actually, let's just dive a bit into HTTP requests to understand how this connection Appgyver works. The best way to do that is by installing a program called Postman. Postman is free, and you do not need to create an account. This is only optional. And Postman gives you the ability to make HTTP requests with the different methods to different locations. and it runs on every major OS. Alright. I have it already installed, so let's just open it. Usually when you open it, then there's some kind of welcome screen, and you can create a new request like this one, and the request will start, it will look like this, and you will have the ability to specify the method. So let's just bring the notes back. So you can specify the method. There are many more methods than what I've written down here, but those 4 are the ones we need. Get, post, put, and delete. So there's a get here, post, put, and a delete. The URL or the URI is here. So for example, let's say we want to ping Appgyver, appgyver.com/, that's it. And we say it's a get method. Let's send this request. And what we are getting back is what the browser would get back as soon as you hit the enter bar on your browser. So this is essentially the same thing as putting Appgyver on your browser. So this is the same thing. It gets some text. This text gets rendered into some kind of a visual representation, and it works with an HTTP request. So it's sending a GET request to the server behind the domain appgyver.com. Maybe there's a preview. Oh yeah, it's actually working. Great. All right. So what we cannot do, usually in the internet, is using posts and delete. So what's not working is like putting delete and the website and then press send and then the website disappears. That's not how it works. Because a server is always in control. So what you do is when sending a request, you're asking the server to do something. You ask the server, please, can I get some data from this website? And then the website will say, or the server behind the website will say, yes, okay, here you go, you will get some HTML. We can see it, that the response is the data what you will receive, and the request is the data what you get, what you send. So in the response, we have also headers, and in this header we can see that for example, the content type of this data is HTML. So by giving this meta information, the browser knows, oh, alright, so this text is actually HTML. Now I can actually try and render this with whatever HTML parser I have. Okay. And what Appgyver asks us is to specify an address and specify these methods. A get method, well, 2 get methods with different paths. A post method, a put method, and a delete method. And by using those, we can actually transform, create, delete data. Okay, so luckily we do not need to install and run our own server. There is a great project called jsonbox.io, and what jsonbox.io is doing is it gives you a free JSON storage. And also works on with the REST API. So let's read the docs. API documentation. So the base URL is something like that. And then you have some kind of a box ID, what you put behind it. This notation indicates that this part of the URL is a variable. And then it has a create method, a read method, well, actually it has two different read methods. One is let's get the whole list of things, and the other one is get a single one, like that. So you put the record ID after the box ID. It has an update and it has a delete. That's exactly what we need. So two different gets, one create, one update, one delete. And it's not a coincidence that these two match. It's because both of them implement the REST protocol. So whenever you see a service claiming that they are supporting a REST API, then you know, okay, so I can use the same language as I use with the JSON box, or I'm using with Appgyver to connect to those other services. Okay, so let's start. Well, it looks quite complicated, but it's not really complicated. We will do it, and you will see it's really easy. So as soon as you refresh the page, you will see that there are different URLs popping up, and each of those are different storages. So let's copy that and put it here in our bar. And if you go and press send on the get method, we will get an empty list. Okay, that makes sense because we do not have any data published yet here. And we can publish data by using the post method. So here, this is a terminal command. It says, okay, do a HTTP request with a method get. This one is the address. This one is the content type header, H for header, and this is the body. Okay, we can just, let's copy that. We go on body, and we will say, I'm going to send, oh, first we need to change the method to post. So now we go to body, and then we say we are going to send text, raw text, but not any text, a special kind of text, a JSON text. I'm going to talk about JSON soon. Let's paste the text. This text is called JSON. Well, the text itself is not JSON, it's the formatting of this text, what's JSON. Okay. We can take a look at the headers. These are the headers automatically put by Postman, and the only thing what we need is the content type application JSON. It's already there because we specified JSON here. So let's send it, and it will return a different object. It has the same key values like name and age, but it also has some kind of ID and some kind of create on date. So if we go back, let's open a new tab and just do a get request. We will see that it will return a list, and it has one object inside. It's exactly that object what we created. When we create a second object, let's say the name is Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is 14. Send. We'll create a second object. Now we can do a GET request on the whole collection, and it will return two different objects.